Director Haynes, the good news is the report is clearly written and I think establishes a lot of very valuable information. The bad news is I made the mistake of reading it Monday night just before trying to go to sleep. There's a lot of serious matters in there. One of the things that really jumped out at me, and I want to follow up on Senator Heinrich's question, is on page, let's see, it's on page 9. China now is on track to control 65% of lithium-ion battery market. They dominate all parts of the supply chain. 40% of the world's active pharmaceutical ingredients, and their global share across all manufacturing of solar panels is 80% now, certainly go to 90%. This is an important information for us in terms of informing us about the dangerous dependency that we've developed in a whole lot of areas. And semiconductors is one that we've talked about, but it suggests to me that this issue of dependency is something that really has to have some serious policy examination. Would you concur?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that we're really trying to expose here is the fact that it's not just simply about China trying to create indigenous supply chains, but actually to control global supply chains.
That seems to be a deliberate policy, does it not?
Exactly.
And that goes also about their actions in Africa and other South America, where they're trying to corner the market, if you will, on various commodities.
And you can see it also, as you indicate, not only in their decisions about what they're purchasing and how they're managing it, but also the laws that they pass that give them the capability, for example, in rare earth elements, to actually turn the dial on their export and import policies so that they can actually create that pressure.
You'd think that we'd learn from Europe's dependency on Russia and gas that this is a similar thing that we really need to address as a matter of policy. Move to another specific intelligence question. What's the current analysis on the relationship between China and Russia? Is it a temporary marriage of convenience, or is it a long-term love affair?
It is continuing to deepen. So I think maybe the latter, although I hesitate to characterize it as a love affair. But so there are some limitations that we would see on where they would go in that partnership. We don't see them becoming kind of allies the way we are with allies in NATO, but nevertheless, we do see increasing across every sector.
Well, the sector that we're most concerned about right now is aid to Russia in the Ukraine conflict. What do we see there? Is China about to act? Are they issuing any supplies now? That's the highest risk, it seems to me, in terms of the development of this relationship, right? The immediate risk.
Yeah, we do see them providing assistance to Russia in the context of the conflict. And we see them in a situation in which they become increasingly uncomfortable about the level of assistance and not looking to do it as publicly as might otherwise occur, and given the reputational costs associated with it. But I think that is a very real concern, and the degree of how close they get and how much assistance they're providing is something we watch very carefully, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that in closed session.
One point I thought you could have used more emphasis. There's a whole section on climate change, which is, interestingly, it's China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, climate change in terms of risks. And you identify the risk of famine and food insecurity across the developing world. You mentioned migration 2 or 3 times, but that, it seems to me, is one of the most serious destabilization risks. The Syrian refugees upset European politics, 6 million. We're talking 100+ million. I hope that the intelligence community can provide some more detailed analysis of the migration risk, which I see as one of the real challenges of the next 10 or 15 years as it becomes uninhabitable in areas of North Africa and the Middle East. Could you comment on that?
Could not agree with you more, sir. And we will look to try to produce something, and perhaps we can do something publicly along those lines.
And General Nakasone, in a few seconds that I have left, China's cyber posture. My sense is that they're getting more aggressive. Is that true? And is Russia adapting and getting better?
Senator, I would say that both for China and Russia, they are very capable cyber adversaries. with regards to China, we see an increasing degree of risk-taking that they've undergone with regards to stealing our intellectual property, even increasing their influence operations. These are concerning efforts for us. With regards to Russia, we still see them, and we see them very accurately and being able to warn and being able to counteract some of the things that they're doing around the world. And so we know them very, very well.
But they're getting cleverer, aren't they, about using our infrastructure, for example?
Well, certainly they're getting clever, but we still, I would say, Senator, are able to stay ahead of them. And that's the big piece that I want to emphasize.
Maybe the answer would be, so are we getting more clever. Thank you.
Well said, Senator.
Thank you.